Hello, my beautiful friends. I have my cat right here, so he might come connect with us a little as well. Welcome to Ask Alicia. I'm Alicia, the founder of the Rose Composite. I'm Alicia Rose, and we are channeling spirits in these videos, which has been so fun for me. Thank you if you've been following along. I almost did not even believe the one that we have today, but I heard it twice. And, if you're trying to do this, that's my message for myself. When I was younger, it was 3 times, and now I'm so confident. If I hear it twice, I'm like, whoa, we really must do that. So today we are channeling Tupac. And really quick, the housekeeping, right? So if you want to join the live discussion, is third Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And usually we have different guests as well, guest psychics, guest healers, a whole variety of folks. And if you want to sign up for those, you can go to roseco.co. And then always, I'm most active on Instagram. I've got all the socials, but I'm most active on Instagram. And that's going to be Ali Rose 359. And we are going to grab that cat because he is doing things he's not supposed to do. Yeah, but look how cute he is. Yeah, I love you. And so with that, we are doing all the things. We're doing all the things. Here, real quick. He's getting in trouble. Getting me in trouble. No, that's not a thing. I'm never in trouble. Let's be real. Fucking boss. That's the energy that comes through today, is like feeling like the boss. And so that's our first message, is just to like feel as powerful as you are. And we have a really good tendency to give our power away. This can be both very strongly, but also very subtly. So some subtle examples might be things like saying, I don't know, or I don't care. You can kind of like believe that you have to follow either like society or your family or others' viewpoints in some way, rather than that internal intuition that's coming through. So like that is such a huge message, like follow that internal drive wherever it leads you. And I know someone's gonna ask, so we're gonna talk a little bit about spirits and souls, and as always, know that in our English language we don't always have appropriate terms for all of these meanings, so I'll do my best to explain them. But if something, some of these things don't quite jive into the English language, so take it with a grain of salt. Try and understand the base meaning rather than drilling into like the nitty gritty of how I'm explaining it. So with that, we are not going to talk about all the theories of if Tupac's alive or dead. What we are really channeling here is that spirit soul, right? And so all of the alive or dead stuff, that's like physical body stuff. And I'd be happy to tell you my theories on it, but our spirit or soul is oftentimes tethered to our physical body. So it's not even a part of us anyway. It's just not a thing. And what I mean by that is that it's not even in our bodies. And so I want you to like imagine when you're dreaming and how it goes beyond your body and mind. I'm sorry, I'm getting paranoid right now. Oh my God, that must be coming through, right? I'm thinking to some of those song lyrics that Tupac has about like how he's worried someone from back in the day is gonna basically like come to kill him. And so that's like one of the messages that's coming through really strongly, is to like be able to like release the past and let go of the past and disconnect from that. oh my God, this is such a strong message, because what happens is if you um, connect so strongly to like a past experience, good or bad, more likely than not, you're going to like recreate that in your current space. So if you were cheated on and you're super worried about being cheated on again, you almost like manifest, and I that word has been so overused, but like you um, probably like seek out partners who have histories of that behavior and are more likely to engage in that behavior in some way. But also, like, it goes the other way around, right? If you have always been very fortunate to be super wealthy, like, you're probably going to just keep on operating in that wealthy mindset. And I know a bunch of people are going to talk about how, like, if you're born with money, it's easier to continue, and 100%, you have more um, like resources available to you from your family. But I also want to like remind you of people like Oprah or Dolly Parton. These are people who, and Tupac too. Oh my God, right? Tupac did not grow up super rich, and look at him, right? Um, so do like know that, again, focus on the meaning, not on all the ins and outs of how you can scrutinize something, because you can pick anything to death. And that's the whole second part of this, is that there are unlimited possibilities. There are literally infinite options and possibilities. So if you are so focused on um, tearing something down, you'll be successful at that. But similarly, if you're focused on like finding examples where it went really well, that will also happen. And we got a couple things going on. So here today, when I'm recording this, not necessarily when it's posted, but when I'm recording this, it is the winter solstice. So happy winter solstice to everybody right off the bat. And that is, the darkest day, I'd call it the darkest day of the year. That's when there's the most or the least amount of sunlight, most darkness. And what's so fun about that is there's this incredible light. All these people started hitting me up. It must be the spirits, right? Must be because we're doing this video. It's been quiet all day long. And so the other thing, it's like right around, it was 3:22 and now 3:23. And he's really wanting me to like, okay. So the key words are keep the faith, powerful and loving. Um, and I am so resonating with this because I have credit, this is the Doreen Virtue Angel Numbers 101 book. I've had this for years, and I am so into numerology, but especially several years ago, like I carried this around all over the place and would always be really set on the numerology of things. And that's what he's really trying for us to understand, is that there's like a map to this. There is rhythm to the chaos of what we're seeing. And so it's so beautiful, because if you're so disconnected, or if you're trying to find some horrible thing, you're going to find that terrible thing. And if you are able to connect in with that faith and really feel connected, right? It's so important to realize that you are connected, that you are not alone. And what's special about this is once you start to like feel that connection, you are able to operate with this, I'll call it a safety net in mind, like an energetic safety net. And what I mean by that is that all of these energies exist all of the time in perpetuity. I'm thinking about some of those sayings about God, right? Omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, all being, all knowing, all times, at all times. And that's where, like, the other side, there is no time. Time does not exist in a linear fashion there, sometimes at all, depending on where exactly you're at. And there's a beautiful word I learned recently. Um, oh my God, I wish I could put my finger on it, but it is um, I want to say Tibetan word for when you're in between lives. They have a term for when you are, um, on the other side, sort of say. And it's really special because there's this incredible opportunity where you can tap into all of the knowledge that exists when you are disconnected from your physical self. And so I almost want you to imagine that, like, you have this physical body and your soul is almost like the puppeteer, right? And that's what's so special about this, because as much as you want to kind of guide and give the general direction, and obviously we have more power than a puppet even in our physical bodies, but our physical bodies are kind of like they never have that much ability. Our souls have this path. Our souls have this line that you really you can't fuck with it that much. Like, it's already been written in stone, kind of say, right? They don't have stone up there, but there is this rhythm to the reality of the physical world that we live in. And as much as we can decide certain things and make choices along the way, more often than not, you know, our soul has already dictated that. Our soul has already decided what we're going to be doing, what our decisions are to um, direct our overarching life path, right? And yeah, um, yeah, I'd be remiss not to say that, like, I'm such a big fan of Tupac right off the bat. But I also, part of the reason this faith is so important, I love that song of his, Changes, and I have a whole playlist called Faith and Change, and it's about it's a bunch of songs, but it's basically like um, intended to remind me and spark that memory of faith in the transformations that exist here, right? It's the faith that, good or bad, everything is constantly changing. We're constantly going through transformations, and that uh, all that exists is temporary to a certain extent. And you can even think, to I'm thinking the trees, because or rocks or anything like that. They'll last longer than my lifetime, sure, but when you start to even expand that further, uh, there's a time. Everything has a time, and that's part of the lesson, is to wield our power to use the opportunities that come through time to our highest advantage. And we don't always do that very well. Wow. Yeah, that's a big one. Um, there's a lot of opportunities that are coming available to us, not only now, but in the near future. So a little bit to remember. It's the 10-year anniversary of 12/21/2021, right? That was the Mayan, when it was thought that the world was going to end. And to a certain extent, it has ended for a lot of people. When you look at the landscape, we just come off of a global pandemic. Not only have more people died historically of recent than is usual. But even if you haven't physically died, almost everybody has gone through a significant shift or is on the brink of that. And I want you to understand too, in these transformations, there's quite a big come up, right? You are really preparing for transformation, I would say more than it takes time for the actual transformation to occur. And that's so wonderful to realize because you have been preparing for this. That's what I want you to understand is you've been preparing for so long. And when that opportunity comes through in your timeline, that's, the magic of it. That's the time to allow yourself this opportunity, right? Because the opportunity is showing up whether or not you take it. It's up to you to allow yourself to take that opportunity. It's there regardless. And the reality is you can sit around forever and grow old and do hardly anything or just die, right? That's it. Just die. and I'm not trying to be excessively morbid here, but the reality is like at a certain point you are unable to die. And what I mean by that is regardless of if Tupac is alive or dead, he is not, like, he will never die. He is always going to be this public figure. People know his name. And, I've never seen him. I've never met him. I don't know him personally. Of course, I've listened to his music. I'm a big fan, but I don't know Tupac. And it's, and many cultures have this, but I'm thinking of Mexican cultures primarily. Is the one I'm thinking of. But again, many cultures have this where you have your physical death, but then you have this death when people stop forgetting or remembering you, right? Is when like the last person who remembers you passes away. You have this spiritual death. And when, Tupac or Dolly Parton, it sounds like he's a big fan of Dolly Parton. I don't know how true that is. But she's coming up a fair amount here too. And so like know too that we're channeling like the essence of the soul that was Tupac's body, so and I feel like Queen Victoria is another one that comes through a lot. A lot of people have connections with Queen Victoria, and it's not that you're actually connecting in with the Honorable Miss Queen Victoria, you're connecting in with the soul that was attached outside of her body and, the puppeteer behind Queen Victoria or Tupac. And it's so wonderful to remember that because the lesson here is that there's a puppeteer behind you. The puppeteer is the you that really exists. You also have this ego mind, this physical body mind that does all these things and has all this input and operates on what I would call autopilot, past programming. There's a part of your brain that's connected to it. I can't think of the word right now. I want to say amygdala, but that might not. Well, let's go with it, right? Because that's our theme today is having the power, feeling the faith, and knowing the know. So hippocampus. What's your hippocampus do? We'll talk about that later. It's about understanding that the real you, the you that goes beyond space and time, is the puppeteer, right? It's not the small little body you, it's the bigger overarching you. So along with that, we are hearing so many messages about really like not only relaxing and letting go, but like allowing that soul version of yourself to create through you, to share these messages from the other side, from the overarching side, to have that blessing, to have that faith exist in reality, in this physical material reality, because they exist all everywhere. But only we have these bodies to capably go impact things so easily. And, if you think of it from that perspective, our physical bodies are very dense energy. Our physical bodies, our abilities and our capabilities, um, are in our potential, right? It's not that you need to be able to do something so incredible today. It's that you need to, and you don't need to do anything, right? But you have the opportunity to build skills in order to master abilities to alter the universe, to alter the world, to alter all of the other realities by this subtle energetic shift into those other places. And there's this ability to telepathically communicate with all other versions of not only other people, but yourself. People don't understand that. Like, people think all the time it's about all the things that, you could do. You could take over the world, you could have a bunch of money, all this stuff. But the reality is that, like, the most wonderful things are the things that you cannot buy. They are the experiences you have. They are the love that you share, the love for yourself. They are the freedom to act and do and be. You have this incredible body to go wander around and be in this world. Spirits don't have that, right? And so you can sit here and complain about how you don't have a bike, but the reality is a spirit can't ride a bike. A spirit doesn't have a body to have this experience. They can kind of like float above and watch somebody else do it. They can see their joy. They can see their experience. They can feel their feelings. But they don't have the opportunity to exist. That's it. We're alive. We exist. And I think that's like part of the folklore that is Tupac, is like, is he alive or not? Does he exist? Is he real? Is he real? Because not only do we have all these very true impacts, but all of a sudden we have all of this rhetoric about him that is so disconnected from the reality of who him and his body was. There's all these stories, all this rhetoric, and I've been seeing this more and more and more. It's less about the real truth, like the actual truth, because there's unlimited truth, and you can think of anything, and because there are these unlimited potentials, no matter what kind of your example is, someone will like it and someone else will not like it, and there is every spectrum in between. And so it's about understanding that, like, your own viewpoint, like your own sovereignty, your belief is absolutely the strongest that exists. Because if you get caught up in believing what your society says, or like the universal norm or the cultural norm, you are going to literally lose yourself. There are things that only you know and only you can know. There's a reason that you have this information. There's a reason that you have this creativity and these desires to do what you're doing. And it's because you are the only one, right? So, and I'll tell you, like, there's a spectrum, right? Because you're probably not like the outlier for every damn thing, but you're probably the outlier for something. And so, almost every single person I think is a trigger to someone else at some instance in their life. And what is crazy is that so often when we are the trigger, we say, oh, there's something wrong with me. But the reality is that there's like nothing wrong with anybody. And we have this common view that everything is disconnected, but the reality is that it's the complete opposite. Literally everything is connected. And when you like disconnect from something, it literally allows it to grow into its own reality, into its own, it has its own life, a life of its own, whatever that saying is. And you have to understand that if you are pushing things away, if you are hating or putting something down in some way, even if it's just in your mind, there is a part of us that hears that. Everybody has this very subtle awareness of literally everything. And we're having more and more people on this earth who are more sensitive and more aware to I'm trying to think of a good term, so I'm just going to give some examples. Thinking like the tidal waves. But not only that, like our ocean system, our tide system is linked to the moon. And so if we're, um, wow, that's a fun conspiracy theory. And I use that term conspiracy light. So I guess when I'm saying conspiracy theory, what I really mean is like um, a minor view, like not the mainstream, right? It's not that it doesn't exist, it's just like not the mainstream view. And even if you think about that, that's my view of what the mainstream view is. That could totally not be true. It's just my opinion of what the mainstream view is, right? Because there's so many so many subjective truths there. If you go to a different country, the mainstream view is different. If you are and when I say a different type of person, I mean like, maybe you have a different gender, maybe you have a different race, maybe, there's so many different ways that you can have a different perspective. And those are both very like physical things as well, right? Maybe you come from a different religion, maybe you come from a different background in some way. And, that can both be like your lineage, but also just like the very small family that you grew up, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a small family, but it can be a very recent shift. And so like have that gratitude. Like if your parents or ancestors or grandparents or somewhere up the line were able to make some shifts, like that carries through. And so if you are a person whose responsibility is to shift those timelines for your family, whew, that is a lot of effort to go against the grain. And just keep at it. Like take a breath and don't really worry about it, because someone is going to hate you for everything. Like no matter what you can imagine, there's someone who's going to say that you're not good enough in some way. And the reality is if every time you hear that in whatever paraphrased words they come through in, if you can turn around and just be like, oh, that person thinks that they're not good enough to do what I'm doing, right? And I think, and again, this is like so subjective. I think musicians get that enough. Like being like music isn't a real job. Like I even used to think that, but the reality is like there's musicians who make a good chunk of change, and if you had that dream and had that destiny too, had that fate, um, there's nothing could stop you. Nothing could stop you. And so I just want to encourage you to start like whether you're having those thoughts about someone else or someone else is, having thoughts about you that are triggering things in yourself. Ask yourself why. Why do you think that? Where did that come from? Because so often those are learned things. And what I mean by that is that, like, you probably at your very core, at your soul level, don't even believe a lot of this shit. But it's that someone else told you that, and then you were in a position where you had to believe it in some way, right? So often that comes through our parents or guardians, but it can come through the school system. It can come through a traumatic event. It can come through all kinds of things. And so really allow yourself to choose your beliefs, and also, like, beyond knowing that, like, your soul beliefs are already there, know that anything that's like more physical or more in this realm, like, at the end of the day, like, you can choose to change that. You can, excuse me, I'm really channeling a lot of energy here. You can choose to alter any of those things. And more often than not, if you even have that, like, desire to change, that desire to alter, even if you don't know what you're going towards, I feel like that's step one, is to say, hey, what's happening right now is not working well for me. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what else I'm going to do. I don't know what the alternative is, but I am saying, no, we are not going to keep on doing this. Do you hear how much power is in that? Um, and and it's like a little bit of this, like, magical treasure hunt, because it's, even if that at that soul level, time doesn't exist. So your soul sees the future. Your soul knows what is likely going to happen. And that's the other part that's so trippy, right? There are unlimited timelines within our current body. Our body is literally just following one very unique path through this reality. There are a whole bunch of different versions of you that have exactly the same starting point and chose drastically different paths in response to every minute millisecond that has existed. Wrap your head around that for a second. There are a million, there are infinite, right? It's pretty easy to think about a million because you're like, okay, that's a million. And that's still like a fuck ton. But, like, there are literally infinite versions of yourself in this timeline alone, in this body alone. And that's where your soul is so fucking crazy, because it has tabs on all that shit. It has tabs on all of them. And that's what your intuition is. When your intuition is coming in and being like, probably a good idea for you to do this one. Yeah, you might want to listen to that, because guess what? Your soul has your interests at heart. It wants you to do well. It wants you to have a good life. And, I would say too, like, really challenge yourself there. If you are someone who believes that life is supposed to be hard, that you are supposed to suffer, that life is not good in whatever way it is, that is a belief. That is a belief. That is not any reality. And you have the power to change your beliefs. And a lot of our beliefs we're not even aware of, right? So that's where that observation is so key, because you really want to start, like, observing what is going on to understand where you want to change. Where do you want to change? You're going to change no matter what, so you might as well do it thoughtfully. Not consciously. Do it consciously. Hmm. Okay, so we're winding down. Hmm. Hmm. Feeling like someone has questions and we're just not hearing them yet. What's it like on the other side? Well, you don't have a body. There's no physicality there. So all the energies exist all at once collectively. So the reality is that only me, Alicia Rose, calling to say, I want this spirit, I'm basically like reforming the spirit in order to communicate with it. Because it's just like an ocean of energy on the other side, and nothing really, of course, it all exists there, but nothing really exists. And what I mean by that is that there are excessive potentials. Everything exists in unison. It's almost just like the raw material, right? It's like the air here. There's just raw material. It doesn't, and the air even doesn't quite fully do it justice, right? Because air is an element. Air, earth, um, water, fire are these elements. And then you kind of have like the next layer on top of that, which would be like stone, ether, space, wood, iron, metals. Metals is typically the word rather than iron. Um, and crystals too. Crystals kind of fall under rocks. There's some gray areas. Again, we're like using words to describe, and we're almost like justifying what is coming through from our soul, because our souls are much more advanced, and they like literally can't explain to us sometimes all of the depth of awareness that they have, because our little human cells would fucking explode. Like we would literally just die. We cannot handle the energy of that infiniteness, right? And again, that's why we're like tethered from the outside. Our soul is outside of us. If it was inside of us, like, yeah, we'd just blow up, I guess. um, the reality here is that um, our souls are creating these human bodies to have these experiences in. And we don't always think through all the repercussions of that. And you can look at it from both sides of the coin. As absolutely wonderful as it is, it's equally treacherous. And I think that's what's so special about the winter solstice. As an example, it is the darkest day, but in order for there to be a darkest day, there is also a brightest day. Winter solstice only exists because similarly summer solstice exists. And between that, you have this whole spectrum of the abilities. And then you look at it like on more of a global scale, right? You have the northern hemisphere right now that's almost completely dark 24/7, and you have the southern hemisphere. And put into perspective, right? I'm in the northern hemisphere, so it's the northern hemisphere winter solstice would then create on the South Pole almost complete daylight for the whole day. And it's these cycles through both space and time of light and dark. And it allows our souls to have this full perspective of all of the options, all of the opportunities. And you just don't get that in the non-physical realms. And I think too, like, as humans, as like little ego people, we don't always have value in the most simplistic thing. Like, it's simplistic to us, right? I've lived how many years? I've had so many winter solstices, and I did not always think of it in those terms of like, how fucking special is it that there's this day where we get to experience this quietness. We get the longest night of the year, and our souls can observe that from the outside. But the only time they get to experience it, experience the emotions, experience the physical feelings of that, is when they're tethered to a body and they have the awareness that the body has as well. So some advice for us all. Right off the bat, like, get grounded. This time of year is, um, is great for getting grounded. Really all winter long, but in general as well. Because what's happening more and more with okay, back up a little bit. The same way we have the seasons and the winter solstice, light and dark, hot and cold, all of this. This is happening at a larger level with a greater cycle. And that's what the Mayans are talking about. And where that is so important is to realize that at these more subtle levels, we are actively experiencing what a lot of people call an awakening. And there are many words for the same thing. But some of the things that you might have an awareness of is that there is more freedom. You are, if you have decided to fully embody your power, you are much more quickly able to transition and shift and change your physical body in some way. And this also exists with information. If you think about, the internet and technology and where all this stuff is going, or has gone, we have more access to more information as quickly as we can type it into a Google search, now more than ever. And understand too, that's a good way to put it, is like on the internet, there are a million different views on there, if not infinite. And so it's like what you're looking for. If you look for articles in opposition to these ideas, you'll find those articles. If you're looking for articles supporting these ideas, you'll find those articles. It's literally what do you type in? And I want you to understand that on a larger level, this is happening with your spirit in some way. Like, what are you typing into your body? What experience do you decide to have? Do you decide to have this opportunity as a creative type, as a musician, or do you decide, or do you decide something else? Ooh, my apologies. The power is so strongly rooted in your own choice to decide. And there are limitless decisions, there's limitless potentials. There's a whole spectrum of where you can fall. And it's up to you to pick your path. And you can look to your soul, you can look to higher guidance, universal guidance, whatever terms you like to use, God, etc. At the end of the day, you are the driver. You're the driver. All of these other energetic outlets are navigators. They're giving you, and sometimes they're not even like good navigators. And what I mean by that is that, like, you can be influenced by energies that are not necessarily evolved energies, or energies with your highest good in mind. And that's where your sovereignty, your power is even more important. It's about saying that I am going to have this strong boundary that says that energies without my highest good are expelled. They are unable to operate here because my light is so strong. And I just encourage you to choose through your heart, choose wisely, follow your own desires, your own opinions, your own beliefs, and allow those things to change as well. Because if you if you believe something won't change, it can't. If you believe that something is set in stone, it is. And if you believe that you have this beautiful opportunity for growth and expansion for the higher good, including your own highest good, then you will attract that and seek that out and have that reality occur. So, a lot of it is really keeping an open heart and following your heartfelt desires. I think, too, especially in my culture, a lot of people undercut that word desire. There's a lot of um, negativity around desire. It's often thought to be like all I can think is like the devil and desire, right? They go hand in hand. But the reality is, if you are having a genuine positive desire to seek something out, and we're going to use like music as the example here, right? Well, I guess maybe that's not the best example. I'm thinking of like Footloose and like dancing is bad, listening to music is bad. This stuff is just bullshit, in my opinion. It's so not reality, so not true. Um, because what we're being asked to in these physical bodies at their very root source is to, and it really starts with, enjoying being alive, breathing easy, eating good food. And from there, it expands into singing and dancing and enjoying the camaraderie of our community around us. And if you're unable to enjoy that, then more often than not, there is something along those beliefs and that programming that is saying that joy is dangerous. There's these ideas that like the other shoe is going to drop, or that as soon as you let your guard down, there will be an attack. And when you think like that, when you have beliefs like that, especially such deep-rooted beliefs, that becomes very true. And I think that's like the other saying that comes to mind is that, we're most worried that other people will treat us like we treat ourselves. And the reality is that that is not the case. Most people are, staying in their lane, trying to get their shit done and are focused on themselves so much. People aren't going around trying to hurt others. They're trying to help themselves. And sometimes that is at the expense of others, but um, it's not personal. Um, I am loving this discussion, and I am hoping you all can let me know what you think of it as well. I certainly was a little bit apprehensive uh, connecting with the spirit of a popular figure, and I never want it to seem like I'm putting words in someone's mouth. Very much so, we're channeling that energetic collective, that soul level spirit. So, from that perspective, um, there's only one soul. It all is one. We're all connected. It's the law of oneness. So I hope that you understand that with that grain of salt in that way. And understand too that, if you're hearing this and like you're resonating with some of these messages, that links back into that law of oneness, right? Somewhere in your mind, in your intuition, in your life path, you got connected up into my circle to hear this message, to hear these musings, and to have that help you in some way. If you are in my realm is clean. It is spick and span, baby. And I really love that. Um, and it's about understanding that like you are here to hear these messages for a reason. So like let them marinate, let them kind of ruminate and see what comes in. If something's triggering you, really dive into that. Why is it triggering you? If you're hearing something and you're like, oh, I knew that. I've been hearing that again and again. know that there's like a reason you're hearing it again from an outside voice. Uh, so often our spirit, our soul will lead us to situations to hear it again in the physical realm. If we're not picking it up through our intuition, they're going to start putting us in situations where it is so blatant that we can't deny it. Like we hear it enough times, it really starts to sink in. So if you are having these patterns, especially with those desires, if you're having these patterns of thoughts, these regular ideas, these opportunities that come up, like that is meant for you. Hop on it, girl. That is yours. It is meant for you. You're meant to love it. You're meant to have fun, and enjoy all that is, all that could be. And I think there's also this, message coming through about what we would often call reincarnation. And so I guess I'll go on my little tangent because they think it's helpful. So, there's this idea of reincarnation. I think most people are aware of it. You die and then you come back alive again in another body. So Tupac's like, I'm coming back, bitches. Be ready for that. Um, uh, I always tell people like the short answer of do I believe in reincarnation is yes, and the long answer is no. And the reason I say that is I do believe that we're coming back in different bodies again. I believe that the same soul can have multiple bodies that they are interacting through. Where it becomes a no is that I feel like so often when we think of reincarnation, we think of time as being linear. I had this life, and then I had this life, and then in the future I have this life. And that's where I don't believe that. I don't believe that time is linear. And so I don't believe in reincarnation because I don't believe we're coming back. I believe we're already there. We are already having multiple lives. We are already connecting ideas between different realities. We have awarenesses from other dimensions that we're ultimately connected to, um, without ever even knowing what those are sometimes. And so, like an example of that is like I've always like really loved the water, and perhaps there was this other life of mine where I am a sailor on the water, and that's why I love it so much. I'm like some kind of Navy person at sea, or even a pirate, right? We have um, all these views of what's good and what's bad, and the reality is that it all just is, and it's all connected, and there's unlimited potentials and unlimited possibilities, and it's never ending and it's never beginning. It's this constant rotation of the same energy. And I like to think of that too. Maybe that's why water came up. I always heard when I was younger that the water on Earth is like all the same water. It's not like created or destroyed. And so like it's going through these cycles of like evaporation and precipitation and being in glaciers and ice cubes and being in the tropics and whatnot. And it's literally all the same water that's just transforming into different forms over and over and over and over again. And that has always been fascinating to me because I genuinely believe that, that's the reality of our raw energetic being, is that like it's the same soul energy that's just recycled into different forms, and recycled doesn't even do it justice because it's like recreated, um, and so there's this bliss in death, right? And what I mean by that is as much as we love all of these things that exist, there's so many things that are worth letting go of, so many things that are very worth killing. And I don't necessarily mean like physically killing. I mean our opinions and our beliefs and our habits and our behaviors. and the way that we treat each other and the way that we interact with each other. And I highly encourage you this time of year to, make some stark decisions on what you do not want to carry forward. It's the best time of year to truly let things go, and let them go for good and not to come back in the future. And you're seeing this with certain things. What happens with that though is that in letting go, you're like creating this energetic release that actually like pulls new things in, right? And so that's what it means by being in the flow, right? You want to let things go just as much as you're letting them in. And when you kind of start to lock up, when you start to hold on to things so strongly they can't move and flow anymore, and you get stuck. No good things are coming in, no good things are going out. And I joke, it's kind of like if you never got a haircut or like cut your nails, right? You want to like energetically let go of things, and you can hear that in terms like cord cutting, or boundaries, or releasing energies. But I highly encourage you to do some conscious, thoughtful thinking about what you'd like to release. And on that note, I'm going to try and stop saying things like thoughtful thinking. I'll get a dictionary and work on my vocabulary. And I hope that you have many blessings this time of year. I know it's the holiday season. And allow yourself to be in that flow, allow things to release so that new things can come in. It's almost like you can only carry so much. So choose wisely what you decide to carry forward, and change will happen regardless. So allow it to happen in the best way possible for you. Allow it to be easy. Allow it to be graceful. Allow it to continue on in perpetuity. Thank you so much to the Spirit of Tupac, the soul of Tupac, for coming through and sharing some of these messages. And thank you to all of you for listening. Happy solstice. Happy, wonderful holiday season. I'm Alicia Rose. I'm the founder of the Rose Composite. You're more than welcome to join us for our live Ask Alicias on third Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Those are so fun because you can ask questions and kind of get deeper into some of these ideas. I will be continuing these videos, so if you have interest in connecting with spirits of any sort, please let me know. And we will keep it up so beautifully. And the website is roseco.co. Instagram I'm most active on. That's AliRose359. Still doing one-on-one sessions. It is December, so if you, and I think I'm all booked for the rest of the month, I'm pretty sure. But as long as you book something in December, it's BOGO this whole season because, because I love the holidays. So book something before the end of the year and you get another session free. It's the best deal I offer. So if you're interested in working with me, please do that. And know too, you can give those away as gifts or hang on to them for the spring or another time in 2023.